Drive podcast. I am DJ Quest One with
your girl Shay-T.
I know it's been a while since we've done another video. It's been a while. We've been busy. Sometimes in this life it gets busy, but we're back at it, and we're gonna speak on the Uvalde shooting. Very tragic. What happened with these kids losing their lives and the teachers. And she's a former teacher, so she can definitely relate more than I can. I mean, I do have a kid, and I wouldn't want that to happen to any kids, even if you go take your kids to school and never see them again. How do you feel about when you first heard of it? What was on your mind?
Gosh, that's a big question. So I guess I would say that I think I kind of had to step away. I really had to step away to kind of really process the idea that someone would, harm these kids who were not knowingly harming anyone else, or
Innocent.
that's what I'm saying. That in school, last few days, looking forward to summer, things like that, and so it's been a challenge because I have worked with kids from, I guess the youngest have been babies to actually college students, so my oldest student being like 65. But I would say that it's just and my granddaughter is in elementary school, so that all those things combined, thinking about teachers that have been friends or previous coworkers, things like that, and how coming back after COVID has really already been highly distraughtful because there's teacher shortages, people walking off jobs, things like that. So now where somebody might have done one job before, now they're being asked to do more with the thought of, oh, I could be sick when I'm at work, get sick and then not be paid for days off. And so you got all these extra stressors. And then people are on edge because they're working more at work, and then so all this extra stress is in the building. And then now you're like, okay, and somebody's going to come in here and try to harm us or the kids, and not really, like, for no reason. And so this is yet another burden, another stressor for educators, and the educators need to be taken care of because they take care of our kids.
They do.
And so that is really disheartening. And I think we'll get to, a deeper part, but I mean, that's really just disheartening.
Speaking of that, one of the kids was in the classroom and they were sick, and the parent picked her up. And the shooting happened. Yeah, one of the kids was in that classroom. So can you imagine? I mean, she probably had friends in that class that passed. And I think it was one of the classrooms that every one of the kids, I think all of them got shot by this kid who definitely something was wrong. Something was going in his head.
For sure. Yeah.
I mean, I can't imagine and leaving the back door open.
So, that's interesting because I know every building is different, and I've taught in Louisiana, Texas, and Missouri, and I've taught, like I said, from daycare age through, college age, and those doors that the automatic lock, I mean, they just kind of they close. You don't have to worry about, oh, did I get it? Did I pull it? It automatically will close behind you.
Right.
So I know a lot of people like trying to place blame, and I don't know that that's really the what helps in this moment. However, I would say, hey, was the door locked, or the part that causes the pressure for it to close properly, was that working properly? Did someone actually leave it propped open, or did they think that it as usual would close behind them all the way? I think that we just have to be cautious, of our actions and in buildings. And I don't want to get too far off track, but I mean, there was not too long ago when there was a shooting in an office building downtown, like closer to downtown area.
Right.
And that was unexpected in just a regular office building, right? So I think we just have to be careful and thoughtful about our actions. What do you think?
We do. We have to be thoughtful. But you're right. It's all security. Where was security? Where was the police officer at that takes care of the school? I, it, it, it's it's hard to understand. First of all, what was wrong with this kid? Second of all, you know, going into a school or even working in a school, is it safe to be a teacher? Like, it's all these things that happen and going on. And then just recently, a guy had a back surgery and he went into a hospital. I don't know if you heard about that. And he killed the doctor. He killed like 3 people, and then he got into a shootout with the cops. And it happened recently.
Wait, hold on a second. So he brought a gun into the hospital for when he went to have his surgery, and
he blamed it on the doctor that he was having back pains.
So it was after the fact. I'm trying to understand.
Yeah.
So he had a surgery. He left the hospital. He started having back pains at some point. So he was angry with the doctor because he felt like it was the doctor's fault.
Yeah.
And then he
killed the doctor, the nurse, another doctor, and I think he killed like a patient or something. Like 3 people he took down. But to answer your question, it's a touchy subject because those who have kids, you want the best for your kids, and then they're looking for summer. They're looking for those 2 weeks left. I've been to Uvalde, and my prayers go out to them. I fought there in boxing back in '93, and it's a small town. Everyone knows each other. I think it was like a barn or something that I fought in there. It was hot though. There was no AC. We fought there. We enjoyed our time. It's about 20, 30 minutes, maybe 40 minutes from San Antonio. It's not too far away.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there just needs to be better precautions when it comes to school.
Well, I want to even go from a mental health standpoint. I've worked in, 3 psych hospitals. One in Louisiana. I worked in a substance use rehab in Louisiana and New Orleans, and then also here in Texas in 2 psych hospitals. And I remember working in a partial hospitalization program for teens, and so partial hospitalization is usually like a 6 to 8 hour day in a facility. So you might have groups, individual counseling, might have for the students, usually there's time when they're able to do their schoolwork, things like that, and they get to see the doctor, all that, psychiatrist, all that. Anyway, so I remember talking to different parents, and saying, hey, what do you think about maybe family counseling? And I've had parents tell me, oh, well, I'm not the one with the problem, we're not the one with the problem, it's just, my daughter, oh, it's just my son. And I think that we as humans have to be cognizant that kids are thinking things, they're feeling things, they're experiencing things. And so I did not see it myself, but someone shared with me that they had heard on one news report that this young man who did this act had been bullied. And this goes, I'm not sure if that happened, but it was told to me. And I put my teacher hat back on, and I just remember how in my classrooms, I'm only one teacher, but in my classrooms that I was always doing my best to be on the side of right and treating each other fairly and decently. And if you thought you were going to bully, you're not going to do that in my classroom. That's not how I lived. It's not what I supported.
Yeah.
And I think that, teachers already have a lot on their backs, but I think part of our role as educators ends up being teaching kids how to treat each other and allowing them to know what's acceptable or unacceptable in the classroom, in the building, or with their peers. Now, when they're not in your face, then you can't, you really have no control over that part. But I'm not saying that it's the teacher's fault, but I am saying that it's really important that we do come together as a community, that parents are honest with themselves about what they're seeing in their kids, and if there's something problematic, that they get with the therapist, that they get with the school counselor, that they get with the teachers at school to find out, hey, what are you seeing at school? If a teacher calls saying, hey, Johnny's been doing this lately, well, be open. Don't put your hands up in your guards, oh, not my child, oh, my child wouldn't do that. Be honest, reach out to your child's community to find out what is happening when you're not around. And if there are some things that's happening that that the team feels like, hey, this is not healthy, this is not good, then get together with them about resources. So it could be the local MHMRA, it could be a local therapist in the community, it could be, the school counselor. Sometimes they are an LPC, a licensed professional counselor, sometimes they're not. So school counselors really don't have the breadth to sit with individual kids for 45 minutes or an hour at a time. So they might be able to sit with them for 10 minutes on occasion, but really if a kid needs help, they really do need to get with therapists outside of that campus situation so that they can really be heard and have that time, because usually at a school campus you're talking about hundreds of kids per counselor, so that counselor is expected to do so much for all those hundreds of kids. And
Right.
so when it talk about mental health needs, it's important that parents are honest. You know what, my child is not functioning in a way that seems reasonable or within the scope of normal, and I want to make sure my kid has what he or she needs.
Right. I'm listening to this book called The Outliers, and it talks about when kids are raised like middle class, low income, and the low income parents, because they're always working or whatever the reason is, they don't have a lot of time sometimes for their kids, so they don't treat their kids like they're to ask questions, to be entitled, versus the middle class ones. And the middle class ones saying that they go to the doctor, the parents are already saying, what are you going to ask the doctor? What are you going to do this? So they're raising their kids to ask questions, but when you're lower class, it's different. And I was like, man, that does make a lot of sense. Sometimes they're passive. They'll go to the teacher meeting and they say, oh, this is what your son needs to do, this is what your daughter needs to do. And the parents, the lower income will be like, okay, and some of them don't speak English, you know what I mean? But the ones that have money, that have a little bit more money, they'll be like, oh, we're going to get involved. They'll get more involved in the parents. And I know it's hard because, everyone works. But if you're involved with them in school, what you're saying, find out what's going on, where's their grades, who their friends are and stuff like that. They can catch it before stuff like this happens to this little boy who, by the way, he failed high school. He was going to be held back. Mm-hmm. And he was angry about that too. I read that he wasn't going to graduate. So I think what you're saying, yeah, I definitely agree, counseling, but also, being involved in your kids' curriculums, even parent-teacher conference, knowing what's going on. Ask questions. Don't be scared to ask questions. If you don't speak English, get with somebody who does. Take them with you. Be involved, because if this little boy is saying, this kid's picking on me, and he doesn't say anything, he's scared, you gotta ask your kid, hey, what's going on? I want to help.
Right.
Being involved with your kid. And I think that, I'm not saying, and the mom spoke Spanish only.
But the child was living with his grandparents.
Right.
So, I guess, this could become like a bigger thing, like maybe we need 5 more segments on this one. But, I raised my 7-year-old granddaughter. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of grandparents are having to raise their grandkids, and sometimes there can be a generational disconnect because, luckily I'm young enough, and I guess being in education for so long, I have been kept abreast of a lot of young kid things somewhat, but his grandmother is 60, 70, years old. She's there's a big difference, a huge gap, and then
generation.
And so they don't understand each other, and they're already disconnected. And then if that child has feelings about his parents, and his parents not being there, being the ones that's supporting him and things like that. Again, so this is where therapy comes in. Mm-hmm. And also not just therapy, but just trying to create a good relationship. So if this is the child that you took in, even though it's your grandkid or whoever, your niece, your nephew, your whatever, I think that it's your responsibility to create a relationship of open communication where that child knows that you care about them, that they can come to you for things, that they feel okay to share their failures or where they messed up, and that you're not going to scream at them, but you'll just listen and try to understand. And if you have wisdom to share the wisdom. but it's not always, you know, screaming and hollering and,
Yeah.
oh, you're so terrible, oh, you're so bad. I mean, kids don't respond well to that typically, and
Yeah.
all it does is make them rely more upon strangers, you know, people in the street, people at the school, other people who may not be giving them wisdom and guidance, right?
Yeah.
So creating those relationships is, you know, with your own kids as well as whatever other kids you take into your home.